I'm Alex Smith, member of LANS, presenting this week's update. For more updates and information about LANS, visit jalans.org. That is JALANDS.org. You can also follow us on social media. Our Twitter handle is @LANS_JA. LANDS_JA. Now, on to the news. We'll be covering two stories. The first is on Uber's rollout in Jamaica, and the second on the election in Peru. First, we'll take a look at Uber and the broader transport sector here in Jamaica. There's been talk of the US-based ride-sharing company Uber expanding operations to Jamaica since March of this year. Such talk has come to fruition, with its mobile app becoming available for Kingston and St. Catherine customers on the 15th of June. Uber intends to enter Jamaica's urban public transportation sector and seeks to do so in a peculiar way. Each operator is a, quote, vehicle with driver, and every interaction between a customer and driver using the Uber app is a lease of that vehicle for the duration of the ride. This model differs significantly from route taxis and hackney carriages found all over the island. Now, Jamaica already has established ride-sharing services, such as 876 On The Go, Arrive, and Get There. Like with Uber, drivers provide their own vehicles and use an app to look out for customers. All these apps provide driver information and history and vehicle tracking as features. However, the local entities explicitly require drivers to be licensed with the Transport Authority. To date, Uber falls below this regulatory standard, and that makes sense. What attracts drivers to Uber in other countries is that so long as they have a vehicle and a driver's license, not necessarily a taxi license, they can use the app to make extra money, if not make a living. This is the gig economy at work. You bring your own equipment and a company builds up a marketplace to facilitate the interaction between you and your customers. The circumstances of the company's entrance in Jamaica are not without confusion or controversy. In a Loop News report on the 16th, Edgerton Newman, president of the Transport Operators Development Sustainable Services, TODSS for short, expressed concerns about the legality of the launch and potential special treatment on the part of the Transport Authority. He continued to say that Uber is in a position to undercut local businesses, which could in turn complicate negotiations for fare increases. The All-Island United Route Taxi Association and Jonestown Taxi Association were also contacted and shared similar sentiments. Jonestown President Patricia Garrison worried that Uber will, quote, squeeze out the small operator. This is a sensible position to take. TODSS President Newman also asserted in the report that the market is saturated. That is, the supply of taxis is more than sufficient. If correct, then squeezing out is exactly what Uber would have to do to compete. In nationwide news interviews, representatives from the Confederation of Independent Rural Taxi Association and the On-Time Taxi Services Company both lamented that their own operations are more difficult than Uber's due to having to take on regulations that it hasn't as of now. But speaking to Nationwide, Route Taxi Association of Jamaica President Sophia Campbell accepted that local operators will have to improve in order to keep up. An Observer article, also published on the 16th of June, cleared up the issue of illegality and regulations. Uber's launch was not legal and not sanctioned, as the Transport Authority did not grant the company any permission to do its business. Uber owns no fleet of vehicles. It instead facilitates leases of contractors' vehicles. Also, Guardian Limited insures these leases. Nevertheless, the Transport Authority did not conclude that drivers could use Uber without also being licensed operators. In both meetings with the companies earlier this year, the Transport Authority advised Uber that any business would have to be in line with current legislation. Meanwhile, on the 17th of June, the Red Plate app launched on Google Play and the App Store. With the endorsement of Transport Minister Robert Montague, the app serves businesses and customers alike with a central platform for transport and delivery. From a Loop article on a statement of his on the 18th, Montague touted the Red Plate Company's software as being a local, technical solution for the Jamaican transport sector. On the same day, Nationwide reported that the Ministry of Transport is reviewing a TODSS proposal on how to improve the sector, including a code of conduct and additional fast-track training. Some may observe Uber's arrival on the island and view it as first world service coming to the country. If that's the case, we need to look at its impact on the first world. While the company claims that its app is available in over 10,000 cities, not all of those cities openly welcome it. Licensed operators in cities like New York, London, Paris, Athens, and Warsaw have protested against the service for disrupting their local transit sectors. More recently, taxicab operators in Barcelona staged a protest in March, blocking major roads in response to Uber's return to the Iberian city. The Spanish Ministry of Labor cautiously permits Uber to do business, sharing its algorithm with unions and requiring the company to treat drivers like staff, not independent contractors. The pushback doesn't end there. Uber, a San Francisco-based multinational, was sued last year by the California Division of Labor Standards Enforcement for wage theft. On the basis of hiring workers, not contractors, Uber was accused of failing to pay minimum wage and not paying for rest, sick leave, overtime, and non-productive time related to business, such as travel to a pickup location or vehicle maintenance. The company is also accused of not reimbursing drivers for business expenses and not paying timely upon termination. Now, we have our own minimum wages, labor regulations, unions, and associations here in Jamaica. If Uber is to stay, those interested in the empowerment of transport workers cannot allow it to run afoul of them. Yet, we can't lose sight of the bigger picture either. Uber is not alone in crafting the gig economy or contributing to the issues with it. The California suit against it also includes Lyft, Uber's main competitor. In addition, Spanish regulation includes treating local food delivery company Glovo as a business with conventional workers. The model being regulated and curtailed in the first world is nearly the exact one being promoted here in Jamaica, both in government and the private sector. So if ride-sharing, food delivery, and other transport services become more popular and take on contractors, we have to remain vigilant. This means checking on the wages and conditions of these contractors and ensuring their political standing does not erode as the market shifts. Finally, on to Peru. To give some context, Peruvian national politics since the 2016 election has been unstable, with impeachments, snap elections, and protests. Elected President Pablo Pedro Castillo resigned in 2018 after being impeached twice and was arrested in 2019 on corruption charges related to Brazilian company Odebrecht and Operation Car Wash. His vice president, Martin Vizcarra, was also impeached twice in 2020, the second resulting in his own removal from office, and Manuel Merino succeeding him. Elements in Peru viewing Vizcarra's demise as a coup on the part of the fascist opposition party Popular Force manifested in protests in November, which was met with deadly repression. 5 days in, Merino resigned, and the Peruvian Congress elected Francisco Sagasti to replace him. One elected president, and 3 interim presidents later, Peruvians voted in the first round of the 2021 general election in April. The 2 candidates remaining for the second round were Pedro Castillo of the left-wing Free Peru Party and Keiko Fujimori of Popular Force. Notably, Keiko Fujimori is the daughter of Alberto Fujimori, who was formerly the president of Peru and currently convicted of crimes against humanity. Popular Force carries on the conservative and anti-communist ideology of the former president. The second round took place on the 6th of June. Throughout the ballot counting process, the results were close, with Castillo clearly having a narrow lead only after over 90% of votes were counted. According to reporting from Deutsche Welle, Castillo did not claim victory until the 15th. From that same report, Keiko Fujimori did not concede and submitted claims of electoral fraud to Peru's National Jury of Elections, JNE. To date, none of the accusations have held up to JNE scrutiny. All observers, including the Organization of American States, OAS, report a regular and conventional process. Fujimori has also called for new elections, a move Castillo's running mate Dina Boluarte dismisses as generating violence. Fujimori's tactics and defiant rhetoric were quickly compared in local and foreign press alike, including the Washington Post, to those of former United States President Donald Trump. In the aftermath of his electoral defeat in November 2020, his campaign submitted claims of voter fraud to several state governments, and a movement to stop the steal rallied around him. This movement would culminate in the 6th of January 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol building during Congress's counting of electoral votes for then-President-elect Joe Biden. The Washington Post article on the issue concedes that Fujimori is repeating what she had done in an attempt to bring down Kuczynski, who she ran against in 2016. Her own party led the impeachments against him. But the campaign against Castillo does not begin and end with Fujimori. From a Reuters report on the 18th of June, up to 80 retired military officers sent a petition to the Peruvian Ministry of Defense to prevent Castillo from taking office. Interim President Sagasti quickly denounced the petition, as did the ministry. However, the signal is clear. The military elite in Peru are discontented with Castillo's victory. These officers come from the same armed forces that supported Alberto Fujimori's crackdown on the nations indigenous to Peru and communist guerrillas with death squads in the Colina group, as well as the self-coup against Congress in 1992 done to hasten it. From a Telesur retrospective report, this self-coup enabled murder and disappearances, and it also resulted in the sterilization of over 300,000 women, mostly indigenous. All this obstruction and activation of the most reactionary elements in Peruvian politics has been done to stop economic reform away from neoliberalism. From a Society of the Americas report, Pedro Castillo seeks wealth redistribution, a new relation to mining companies, popular access to key assets like gas, and a new constitution, one that doesn't have its origins in the aftermath of the 1992 self-coup. It's likely that Castillo will have to moderate this platform, but the threat of it is too much. Meanwhile, Keiko Fujimori does promise more taxes and pension increases, but her main plank is to reinforce the security state, with more prisons, and giving more respect for the police. Changing Peru's relationship to foreign and national business is not on the agenda. Fujimori champions the far-right impulse to look to repression for security at the expense of social welfare and programming. The usual elements manufacturing consent against the political left, Western media outlets, and OAS especially, have been relatively muted, but they don't have to sound the alarm. If the coup succeeds, the work of imperialists and their far-right allies will be done. And while our own police and armed forces don't have the same exact relation to the people and the state as those in Peru, our current government, one of business, of meeting Western standards, of dependency, has leaned on them for social control. Electoral obstruction and coup plotting are not unique to Peru, and they're not unique to this election. They are tried and tested strategies to stop the progress of liberation all over the world. We must carefully watch developments in Peru, not let anyone distort reality, and ensure that such methods do not reach our shores again. This has been Alex Smith with your weekly update. Thanks for listening.